Hi there, this is Emily Greenberg from Reform News Television, and I am here on my way to Washington, D.C. for the biggest protest that has ever taken place in the history of the United States about a very important issue that we should all be concerned about, which is prison reform and recidivism rates. The reason why it's such an issue is because the United States houses 5% of the whole world's population, but we have 25% of the world's prisoners. Now that is due to a lot of reasons, specifically because of, the war on drugs that we have created in the United States that has put a lot of people into jail and mandatory minimum sentences. And we have some of the highest recidivism rates, which means people who were previously incarcerated get out of jail and they end up coming back into jail. 50% come back within a year and 80% come back within 5 years. And why is that? Well, it's because our prison systems are seriously messed up. We put prisoners away, they sit, they don't learn any lessons, they don't gain anything, they come out of prison having nothing. So what do? They go back to doing the same things that got them into prison in the first place, which is messed up because prisons are supposed to be rehabilitation centers, not just housing places for people who have done bad things. Now, some people don't agree that we need prison reform because it does, cost money, and some people feel that prisoners aren't deserving of these new reforms that could be put into place. But it has been shown that for every dollar spent on prisoner education saves $4 to $5 in recidivism rates. That's a 500%, inflation that it costs to reincarcerate someone versus educating them. So other people might say that, crime has gone down since the 1990s because of mandatory minimums. So why do we need to change anything? Senator Cotton has said that specifically. And the reason why that's not true is because correlation does not mean causation. There are so many other things that have gone on to reduce the rates of that, such as, police forces being tasked differently to be able to go to the most needed areas of highest crime to reduce the crime there. So that argument is also, I understand both sides of it, but it's been correlation, as I said, does not prove causation. And the reason why, we really just need to focus on this prison reform is because if we have less people going back into prison, we'll save money, and it also will create a safer and better society. People will actually come out of prison and have things to do and a purpose in life and a reason for doing things, a job, a way to make money, to be a functioning member of society. And who knows what that person may have to offer that just with a little education and encouragement, they can show their true potential. And social workers are at a big forefront of this because social workers get to see prisons at almost every single level. At the micro level, they get to interact with prisoners directly. So they go into prisons, they can be therapists, they can ask the prisoners what they're doing, they could be educators. There's all sorts of things at the micro level with direct interaction that social workers do. At the meso level, there might be coordinators of prisons, dealing with groups of prisoners and the prison as a whole, see how it's functioning and how it's doing, the cleanliness, the food, things of that nature. And then at the macro level, that's where there is policy and legislation change and reform that's going on. And the reason why social workers are so incredibly important to prison reform is because they get to see all three levels of the prisons, from the prisoners themselves to the policies and legislations that are in place and making sure that those policies and legislations are being implemented in the specific prisons. So social workers are very, very important to policy reform for prisons. And the social worker stance on this is that something needs to be done. It's been shown that the people that get reincarcerated, it's so expensive, it's so costly, and people just end up rotting away, and that's what our money, our tax dollars is being spent on. And why not spend it on letting these people have another chance by teaching them, how to have a job, how to write a resume, how to, all of these different things. And so it's very important, and social work does have a very explicit stance saying that they support prison reform and they agree that something needs to be done. And we all should agree that something needs to be done. And this is what you can do to help this issue, because this issue not only affects the prisoners and their families, which are real people too, but it affects you. It affects the money that you're paying for prisoners to be in jail and the crime and the type of people in your communities. Wouldn't you want to reform people so that the people coming out of prisons are better people and create a safer community for you, and they aren't involved in the same things that they were that sent them into prison? So this is what you can do. There's so many different things that you can do. First of all, so you need to educate yourself about things that are going on in the community in regards to prison reform. This means being up to date on who is up for vote in office and what their stance on prison reform is. If there's any policy or legislation that you personally can vote on that, and vote that we need some changes. And write to your legislators and your policymakers and your governors and your senators and tell them why this is an important issue. Not just to the prisoners and the family, but to you as a community member. You want a safer community. You want a stronger community of people working together and appreciating each other and just having a better community all around. So voting, that's the biggest way that you can make a difference. Another thing is, it's hard for the prisoners to be able to fund these education programs. So donate used textbooks and learning materials that you may have. They can't buy these new textbooks. So if you can donate your old materials, that can help, teach a prisoner maybe and inspire them to try and go back to school for something and to be something. You can also, for the education aspect, donate money or donate time. You can volunteer to tutor a prisoner. There's programs where you can Skype with a prisoner if you're not comfortable going to a prison, because some you cannot do that. But you could Skype with a prisoner and teach them a lesson and help them learn. You can also try and recruit teachers to come and teach the prisoners. This could be through Skype as well. High school teachers that may have a couple extra hours during the day or on the weekend or something, if they could go and, help these prisoners, that would be fantastic. And then you can also help families that have recently gotten out of prison by providing a meal once a week to these families, to a family with a prisoner that just came back into their lives. Donate a meal once a week, or offer to drive the prisoner to and from work or school. Or you could even offer a prisoner a room for rent if you have it. There are so many ways you can get involved, and it's up to us to be a strong voice together so that we can make these changes happen and create a better community for our loved ones, our future loved ones, the prisoners and their families, and all of us together. Like I said, I'm on my way now to the biggest prison reform riot in history, and we're hoping to make some changes. This is Emily Greenberg with Reform TV. Thank you.